As you testified earlier, the president implicitly threatened you in that call record. And now the president in real time is attacking you. What effect do you think that has on other witnesses' willingness to come forward and expose wrongdoing?
Well, it's very intimidating.
It's designed to intimidate, is it not?
I mean, I can't speak to what the president is trying to do, but I think the effect is to be intimidating.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, testifying during the first impeachment trial of Donald Trump about personal attacks being levied at her by the then president. Ambassador Yovanovitch is just one of the officials our next guest says played key roles in protecting our democracy during the Trump administration. And David Rothkopf joins us now. He's a columnist for the Daily Beast and an author of the new book entitled American Resistance, the inside story of how the deep state saved the nation.
A provocative subtitle. Explain.
Well, I thought we should go right at the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And you got to ask yourself, why do they have this conspiracy theory? You know, the idea that 1 million people, the biggest organization in the world, are somehow engaged in conspiracy is ludicrous. So why are they doing it? And the reason is that there are a lot of people in the U.S. government who place loyalty to the Constitution and adherence to their oath of office ahead of loyalty to an individual or to a party.
Right.
And they saw them as a threat. And that's, you know, it's the same thing as with fake news. They say, well, you know, let's call this all fake news because it's a threat. Maybe.
Well, and Donald Trump admitted that to Leslie Stahl. He said, well, the reason I call it fake news, Willie, is because when you write something bad about me, they won't believe it.
Right. And it comes home to roost when he needs it, like when he's denying an election or something like that. And really, as you know, David, deep state just means you've done something that undermines the guy I love, Donald Trump. Therefore, there must be a conspiracy around it. So how did this term become so prevalent? How do we learn it? Who were the biggest pushers?
Well, you know, it's interesting because the term actually dates back to like the Turkish government of Kemal Ataturk. But you know, people weren't talking about it until 2016. And then a bunch of sort of right-wing writers got on it, and Trump got on it, and they started saying, you know, these are the bad guys. We got to go and stop them. And over the course of the Trump administration, we see why. Because these people regularly said, no, Mr. President, there's a law. No, Mr. President, there's the Constitution. No, Mr. President, we can't do that. It infuriated him. And by the end of his administration, what he was trying to do was get rid of them. And he created this Schedule F idea where he can fire 50,000 of them. And now the whole Republican Party has bought into it. And the reason I think it's important is that this is part of the effort to chip away at democratic protections and the rule of law, whether it's make it harder to vote, or having secretaries of state who say Republicans will win every election from now on. Part of it is getting rid of people who place loyalty to the Constitution ahead of loyalty to Trump or to some MAGA leader.
Yeah, so let's, Jonathan Lear, really quickly, just for our viewers, let's trace this back to the beginning. The first big deep state theory was when Donald Trump said Barack Obama and the deep state tapped my phones. And they actually let it play out, that lie, which Republicans, I can tell you, people in his own administration were horrified that morning. They were frantic, running around the White House that morning trying to figure out what to do. But let's trace it all the way from there, that lie, all the way through a Durham investigation that went longer. Again, trying to investigate the, quote, deep state and all the horrible things they did against Donald Trump and all the horrible things the FBI did against Donald Trump and all the horrible things DOJ did against Donald Trump. What happens? Durham is made a fool of. He makes a fool of himself. It goes on. He's got some hacks on the far Trump right that are trying to defend him. But at the end of the day, absolutely nothing there. A man that once had a stellar reputation leaves in shame, can't indict a grapefruit.
Right, and the Durham probe...
A very guilty grapefruit, may I add.
Yeah, that really shows how badly he has slipped.
Yes.
It was a response to the Mueller investigation. That's when the deep state really took off in Trump world, David, as you well know, leading to this failed Durham probe. But you were just talking about the idea that so many of these people, he's vilified them, and some have left. He tried to push others out before leaving office. And while he was in charge, there were these guardrails. There was this sort of remnants of the old Washington that tried to hold him back. And the real fear here, as he teases 2024 again, is were he to win again, those guardrails would be gone.
Exactly.
So much of the deep state has been eradicated. Does that keep you up at night?
It does. It's the reason I wrote the book. You know, one by one, they've gotten rid of the guardrails, the checks that we grew up believing were in place. You know, the judiciary. He got rid of the DOJ as a guardrail. The Senate, you know, when impeachment took place, he got rid of that as a guardrail. And you know, when he just started to discover that an issue after issue, from the Muslim ban to him calling up Mattis at night and saying, let's launch a war, and the military leaders going, let's walk that back a bit, you know, and so on. He said, wait, this is an impediment. So I'm going to fire him. I'm going to appoint people. I'm not going to go for Senate confirmation. I'm going to put acting people in to these different places. And now I want to pass a law. And it's not just him, though. Now Gingrich, DeSantis, and the others are like, yeah, we can't have these people around who are loyal to the country. And, you know, this is a step on the road to authoritarianism, and we have to see it
Well,
for
actually,
what it
you know
is.
what? It is such a playbook. I mean, it's taken straight out of the authoritarians' playbook. You can read, you know, Hannah Arendt. You can read. You can look and see what do. They get rid of people that are loyal to the country, loyal to the Constitution, and they replace that with blind loyalty for one person. Willie was just reading out a new document that the Republicans have put together, attacking the professionals in the FBI. They attack the FBI when they're out of power. They attack the United States. They, being Donald Trump and Trumpists, they attack the United States military when they're out of power. They attack the State Department and try to gut the State Department when they're out of power.
They attack the intelligence community.
They attack the intel community. They attack all the institutions that actually keep this country safe. Trump actually undermines the intel community, steals documents from the White House, takes them to his beach club, and then people turn on the FBI and attack the FBI even more.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and one of the other reasons I wrote the book is, you know, the Trump administration was more chaotic, more dangerous than we know, right? You know, we're just beginning to discover it. But it would have been a lot worse if it weren't for these people. COVID would have been a lot worse if it weren't for these people. There could have been wars. If it, you know, he had crazy idea like, let's launch missiles at Mexico, you know, to stop the caravan. You know, missiles at Mexico. You know, let's put alligators in a moat. You know, all of these kind of things. This was crazy, and they stopped it. And, you know, Alexander Vindman and the whistleblower, they said, you know, the president's breaking the law. The Congress has appropriated $191 million for Ukraine, and he's keeping it away. And they blew the whistle, and what happened? 2 weeks later, the funds were released. So, you know, it wasn't perfect. Some of these people screwed up in other ways.
But there were heroes.
But there were heroes, and they were Democrats, and they were Republicans. Mostly, they were public servants. And if we don't appreciate public service, then, you know, we get Herschel Walker.
Yeah, well, we got that.
And we saw a whole bunch of them during the January 6th Select Committee hearings as well. People within his administration who we didn't really know it at the time stood up to him and said, no, this isn't happening.
The new book is titled American Resistance, the inside story of how the deep state saved the nation. Author David Rothkopf, thank you very much for sharing it with us this morning. We appreciate it.
And again, it is important to underline a lot of Republicans. Like you said, we saw in those hearings a lot of Republicans part of that. So this isn't like a Democratic deal or a left-wing deal.
No.
There are a lot of patriotic Republicans, independents, Democrats that are pushing back on this madness.
People who did the right thing.